recording. And hello, everyone. Let's take our communication and presentation skills to the next level. We need to accelerate. Welcome, 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 everyone, to Online Presenters. We are an advanced Toastmasters Club. Our mission is to empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. I'm your Sergeant at Arms, Dr. Sunny. To our guests, a warm welcome. We're thrilled by your interest in visiting our club. And if you're interested in joining, you should be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches. However, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, we welcome you to apply for a membership. You can then demonstrate your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by our club. Now, we have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. As a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note, we're recording this meeting. Your video and audio contributions may be used for club marketing purposes. However, we're an opt-in club. If you choose not to be a part of the visuals or audio, check the comments in the chat to opt out. Remember, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. And now, please help me welcome to the virtual stage our club president, Joni Laidlaw. Welcome, Joni.
Thank you for that, Sunny. There's a lot already going on in the chat, so I'm going to start with the background. As you can see, we have varying backgrounds. This is going to be the one that we decide on unless we're having a special theme meeting. So I'm going to ask everybody to look in the chat for the background, and hopefully we can all coordinate and utilize this one moving forward. So that segues into special events, our next meeting. Who here is a member of the Susie fan club? Now, I know our guests, Jenny and Gabby, don't know, but Susie's gonna be here, everybody. But guess what else? Susie's gonna be a tool for Annie to teach us how to bring our props to life. So come for the Susie, stay for the excellent educational value of that presentation that we are going to be having next week, Monday. So we're going to be having a very special meeting. Look forward to seeing you there, and go on our social media and share. It's an opportunity for others to see the greatness of our club. And also, like I said, we need to build Susie's fan club because she's awesome. Right, Annie? With that, everyone, I am going to be asking us to unmute, get our vocal cords ready. Yesterday was the birthday of our Sergeant at Arms, and as you know, it's always a great thing when we call out the Online Presenters Choir. Everybody unmute while we sing our Sergeant at Arms happy birthday. Ready after 3? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sonny. Happy birthday to you. Hope you had an amazing day yesterday. Happy birthday. Today, we have someone who completed his level 1. Now, I know it's kind of facetious for you to present it to yourself, and it's a lot of the times why I don't when I've completed it as well. Whenever you get the role of Vice President Education, you tend to complete the level, but you don't get the award because you don't make the award because you're Vice President of Education. So I don't have the certificate to present to him, but I will say congratulations, Graham, on completing your level 1. So one more level 1 down towards our awards. He will be taking us through the meeting today as our Vice President of Education, one of the people who is actually responsible for the checks and balances here at the club, especially as it relates to our educational goal. But he's chosen a pretty unusual topic for today, which, as you heard, is, well, checks and balances. And we'll confirm and see what happens. Over to you, Graham.
Thank you, President Joni, and thank you everybody for coming along to this meeting of Online Presenters. And a special congratulations to Dr. Sunny, another Aquarian, yay! And you're now in the year of the fire horse, woot! I have to say, singing on Zoom never seems to quite work because we're all hearing it at slightly different times. Those of you of a certain age will remember the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, which featured Rocky and Bullwinkle, obviously, and Bullwinkle would be forever trying to do something, and Rocky would go, "This trick never works. Well, this singing never works, but we still want to wish you a very, very happy birthday." The theme for today's meeting is, as you have heard, checks and balances. You may wonder why I chose checks and balances. Well, it was in fact on this day in 1659, and I can't work out how many years ago that was. My son would be able to do it instantly because he's got one of those mathematical minds I don't. But anyway, it was on this day in 1659 that the first known check was written. And the really interesting thing is that that check still exists. It's in a museum somewhere in Britain, and it was for, I think, £400, which would have been a huge amount of money in 1659. But it's also interesting that there are very few countries in the world that still use checks as a financial institution. Almost impossible to cash a check in Australia, for example. Nobody has a checkbook. I haven't had a checkbook for 15 years. You can't, when somebody does give you a check, it becomes a thoroughgoing pain in the neck to actually get physically into a branch of a bank, because they rarely exist. They're nearly always ATMs these days. But really difficult to actually put the check in. America, on the other hand, where a significant percentage of the population is, what's the official term? Unbanked, checks are still a really big thing, because if you don't have a bank, a check is the only way that somebody can give you money other than cash, and cash is a good way to get robbed on the subway. On that note, we're talking about different checks. We're not talking about checks CHEQUES, which is how we would spell it, or CHECKS as you would spell it as a financial thing. No, we're talking about checks and balances, things that stop us from going too far or that remind us that we need to be balanced. And so we might examine that a little later in the meeting. But first, we have to go through a bit of background on the various roles that take place in a Toastmasters meeting. We will have a prepared presentation, an extended prepared presentation from Kritika a little later. We will have evaluations, because evaluations are the cornerstone of the Toastmasters experience. If we don't get feedback, if we don't get suggestions for improvement as well as praise for what we have done, then we might as well just be sitting here and flapping our gums. There is no learning from it. And the third part of the meeting will be the impromptu speaking, and Joni will be bringing us the table topics a little later. But there are some ancillary roles that come up in this club and most clubs as well. And we're going to run through those. And the first of those is I would like to introduce our timekeeper for today, and that's Andrew Byrne. Andrew will be giving us an indication of the times, and I will be announcing the times before each event. But Andrew, can you show us how you will indicate the times as they are required? You're still muted.
There are 3 segments for timing, and as it normally happens, the computer doesn't do exactly what it wants to do at the right time. So my timing cards are not visible, but I do have these images that are green, yellow, and red, and they will serve as the timing qualifications for the individuals in our events. So green thumb, yellow banana, and red heart.
Fabulous. Thank you, Dr. Andrew Byrne. And if you can please raise a hand so that will place you in the top left-hand corner for everybody. No, I mean, like as in use the raise hand function under React. That would be good. There you go. And that keeps you in the top left-hand corner. That's why we do that, by the way. It's one way of making sure that the timekeeper remains where they are supposed to be. All right, thank you. Our next person that I'd like to introduce is our grammarian, Sherry Blake. And Sherry, can you also, while you're telling us what you'll be doing as grammarian, introduce the word of the day?
Thank you so much for that. And I was wondering if I had to come up with the word of the day. I wasn't sure if Joni did that on my behalf, but that's okay if she didn't. So I am the grammarian today, and I'm going to be looking for good usage of the word, of words that are being used and language that's being used today. And as you were talking and introducing everybody, I kind of thought, if Joni didn't pick a word, let me find one right away. So I chose the word, let's go with accountability. I think that kind of fits into your theme. So accountability is the fact or condition of being accountable or responsible. So the word is accountability.
All
Back
right.
to you.
Thank you, Sherry. We will hold you accountable. We will hold everybody accountable for using that word, as well as confab, which was the word that the president had given us, an informal private conversation or discussion. So be accountable and use confab, but also use accountable or accountability. So you got two words. Yay! Both of them are good. We'll let you get away with either. And Sherry will make notes about both. Something that's not usual in a Toastmasters meeting, except in an online meeting, and even then not in most online meetings, is the role of watcher. Jim Barber, can you tell us what you will be doing as watcher? What you up to?
Oh, Mr. Toastmaster, that was a nice lead in. I like that. Hi, everybody. I'm the watcher this evening. Sherry Blake introduced herself as the grammarian. She's going to be listening to everybody. I am the visual grammarian of the meeting. I do not care what you say. I do not care how you say it. I care how you look. And so I will be watching everybody to see that their lighting is correct, that their framing is correct, that they are using the visual frame effectively, and that sort of thing, making sure that you're not picking your nose to the third digit and things like that. So I will give a report at the end of the meeting, and that's basically it. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Watcher Jim. And as I say, that's a role which is almost exclusive to this club. A role that is not exclusive to this club, but is only used in online or hybrid meetings, is that of the chat monitor. One of the problems is that as Toastmaster, I'm not always able to keep tab of what's happening in the chat. So we have a chat monitor. Well, I'm not going to take over too much. I'm in fact going to allow Sunny to tell us what the chat monitor will do.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day. As chat monitor, I will keep track of a few of the most helpful, encouraging, and or humorous posts throughout the meeting. So if you'd like to do a little confabbing in the chat, it's okay as long as no one is speaking during their prepared speeches, and that will give you a little accountability. And when called upon, I'll give a 1-minute report highlighting the most noteworthy items that were placed in the chat during this meeting. Back to you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Sunny. We have a role in this club that is electronic. It is done by the one, the only, our technical guru and doyen of such things, the vote counter for tonight, the man who sets up the website that we use, as well as was the foundation president of this club, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, here he is. He says he's unbalanced, but not when he's counting votes. David, how are you going to count the votes tonight?
Well, throughout this confab, whenever we do have a vote to count, I will count the votes. I think that mostly means table topics for this meeting, unless I'm called on to count votes for some other special vote, but I don't think so. So I will drop a link in the chat that just makes it easier for me to tally up the votes than if we tried to do it through Zoom chat, through private messages. And Gabby and Yenny, you are encouraged to vote. Guests are encouraged to vote. Everybody's encouraged to vote so that we have a good vote. We'll probably have a lot of table topics tonight, so that could make it pretty competitive, but only if everybody votes. So please vote.
Please vote. Vote often, vote early. Oh, hang on. No, that's not right. No. Thank you, David, for that. One other person that I will introduce, and only because they're stepping into the role, and that's the general evaluator. Andre, can you tell us what you will be doing as general evaluator for this evening?
Yes, certainly, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day. My role as the general evaluator will include a few things. Number one, and most important, is introducing evaluator for the speaker. Number two, I will be asking all people who take in auxiliary roles for today for their reports. And then number three, I will produce my own short and concise evaluation of the meeting, and then pass the reins for the meeting over to yourself, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you, everybody, for agreeing to take on those roles, which allows this meeting to get underway. On the subject of meetings getting underway, it is time now for our prepared presentation for this evening. Normally we have up to 3 speeches, but tonight we only have 1 because it is a longer than normal speech, and it is an unusual longer than normal speech. Kritika Devi Venkataram is going to today, this morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are, she's going to be presenting a speech that combines the introduction to mentoring and also the advanced mentoring in Toastmasters speeches. Those are 2 separate projects. One is, as you know, a level 2 speech, the Toastmasters Introduction to Mentoring, but there is then a mentoring subpath, which is all about being a mentor to a member, and it's a process that takes some time. So, to talk about both the introduction and advanced Toastmasters mentoring, for a time, Mr. Timekeeper, can we have an indication of green at 12 minutes, yellow at 13, and red at 14 minutes? So that's 12, 13, and 14 minutes. The title of the speech is A True Story of Mentoring, Lessons and Moral Values. Please welcome Kritika Devi Venkataram.
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. Thank you, Toastmaster Greg. This is true story. This speech is about mentoring, not just about mentoring, the reverse mentoring as well. How do you perceive and how others perceive when you are a mentor? The action characters are based on the true story events who are alive yet. What I wanted to emphasize through this project is the do's and don'ts of mentoring. The names of the characters involved in the story is hidden for the confidentiality and for the safety and security of the individual who is still alive. You can still hear a violin which is playing behind me. It is going to be there because one of my roommate is doing that. I'll have to mentor them for that. Let's get into today's story. There were 2 persons, Bob and Julie. Bob was around Capercaillie, the big bird, lions, the giant, wolves, and many other people who are characterized as great giants during their part of involvement as their peers. There was somebody who was disputable. You can ask anything to him. He likes to be disliked to prove his thoughts to be disapproved. He's somebody who wants to be disquieted, dispense and dispel who gets into his way. Here is Julie. Julie is confident and no candid candler. She's a person who's canny, down to earth when she wanted to express herself. She is projecting her. She was the one who projects her intellect in a far more better way without having any disruption during the conversation. She was a conversationalist and she was cantable in using her verbose. Now, these two people were paired as mentor and mentees. Bob, the mentor, and Julie, the mentee, who have to work together as per the management. Initially, the first day or the first instance plays a vital role during any interaction. Bob and Julie did not meet. Their experience level were like this. Bob was 30 plus years and he was 30 plus years elder than Julie as well. Now, how did Bob and Julie meet together? It was a tocsin, an alarm bell. Bob enters into his office exactly when the small finger hits 9 and the second finger hits 12. Everybody gets into a tintabulation that, yes, it's 9 o'clock in the morning that Bob is into the office. He's such a canon person who follows rules and regulation. He's considered as a cantilever to his team. Canonizing, living like a saint was the way that he projected. What happens now when Bob and Julie meet? Julie traveled long, far away from her land, crossing rivers, valleys, streets, sea, across miles to get into such a mentoring session. It was a commitment that the organization wanted to have apart from the work that they are supposed to do. Now, Julie was one person who always is inquisitive. She is quite intuitive by nature. She's a charming girl. She's confident. She's always a bird, she's a bird, like a small twinkling bird. She wanted to project herself as a charming girl as well in the workplace. But how will Bob perceive her was the question mark. So that's an intermediate person who used to transmit information between Bob and Julie, and he is also a transporter kind of person, who used to carry Julie in her during her way to the office. And this intermediate person asked Julie, "What is your goal? What is your target? Why are you here? This project is a kind of complex project. Why are you here?" Julie, without a second thought, she shared her goals. At that time, she did not know that there are derogatory effects which could when there is an intermediate person between the mentor and the mentee. You need to share your goals appropriately to the mentor straight away was a takeaway which she did not know. So she just casually shared her goals and target and the purpose for this visit. Julie, on her first day, she was rushing up after a great disastrous travel she had, traveling all over 50 to 60,000 miles far away. She did not have a good sleep, good nap, good food. There isn't anybody to console her. There's people around her. She was assured that she will be late, and exactly she was late on her first meeting to the mentor. The first impression makes the best impression is what everyone thinks. Yes, of course. The mentor thought, She's not so serious, but she's quite serious. How can she project or how can she approve? How can she approve this thought about herself to the mentor? She worked hard for that. She made herself present early in the morning and went late during her sessions, during her interaction in the office that made everyone to look upon like what she's doing. And it was not only to impress, it was actually the project complexity that made her to stand inside the office. It was more than like a software oriented architecture. It was more than hardware. It was more than software. It was more than the firmware. It was just the architecture, base architecture, without any uplifted cantilever that the project was hanging around. She worked hard to understand the in and out of the architecture. She worked hard to know the tools and techniques that is involved. She made herself dedicate her complete time to think, to make her thoughts completely dissolve into the project, getting the essence of what is required in the project. The target or the goal of the project, the technical work that she's supposed to do wasn't shared. During this time, Bob took a vacation for a month. He just went to Himalayas. He wanted to have a kind of canonize, live like a saint for a month. Now, Julie was left alone. She has a complete liberty after knowing the tools and techniques. She has a complete liberty to complete the project. She did it. She exactly did it. In 4 months period of time, 3 to 4 months period of time, she exactly did it. Third month, she completed 90% of the work. And Bob returned after 1 month of vacation and he asked Julie what is the status. Bob, since being a mentor, Julie shared the status, exactly what she has done. Bob said, never, it can't be. Because this is a project which cannot work out. There are certain pitfalls in it, and this project is not going to be of revenue to us, to as an organization. And this information was hidden. Exactly the information was hidden by Bob. But Bob just expressed to Julie that, no, this cannot happen. This is not going to work. Julie was like, no, it cannot happen. No, it is not the way. The architecture is perfect. I can get it right with the code that I have completed it, and you can also check it and verify it with the hardware that we have. The hardware is also working fine. I have cross-verified it with this. There is a funicular space that leads the boot code and the application code that needs to fit in, and I have returned it exactly the weaving it as a thread. Bob said, oh, is it? Let me take a week. Let me take this weekend and then give you the status after that. Now, this instance wasn't understood by Julie that it is not a canopy to her or the organization. It is a carbide filled inside the carbide that could cause capricious effect, capricious deterioratory impact at a later stage. Then, what she's done, she was congratulated by the upper management. Oh, great. Yes, exactly. You have done. You have done. It's working. The Firun started. They celebrated with enthusiasm. But there was a linchpin here. They did not reveal that this will not have complete, this, though completed, will not be continued into the organization and it will be discharged out of the organization. That will have less value, economic value to the organization. She slightly wanted to reassume that her professional and personal confidence are mingling, and she wanted to get this as a record. But without revealing this information from the mentor, the upper management, to the mentee, she was considered as a kind of rebellion, a rebound. Why is she asking to reassure? Because this is a complex project. Yes, we understand you have completed it, you have done your work, but why are you asking it? Now comes the part, the crutchy part. As a queen bee working to collect the honey in a beehive, the essence of the beehive was segregated, dissolved, and the honey was given to the different organization that the mentee had worked with a mentor. This information was, yes, a bit shocking to the mentee, but she was like a bit afraid. Will I not get any credit? The transparency was not there. She thought there was a can fog which is behind her that is not known to her because of the difference in the conversation language that was in. Now, the exact part of accountability comes into picture. Who's responsible for what? We don't know. Here is a takeaway from the story. What do you give as a mentor to a mentee? How do you make them comfortable? The responsibility, the accountability, the coaching style, the way that you make them to trust you, the way that everybody wanted to project is, yes, I am a successful, I am a pharaoh. How are you giving that comfort space to your mentee? Over to you, Toastmaster Graham.
Thank you very much, Kritika. I am so glad I never worked for an organization that played those sort of organizational games. I'm not going to say any more because that's up to your evaluator, who will be speaking a little later about observations of your presentation. Instead, let us move. We don't have any prospective member speeches for this meeting, do we, Madam President? Not that I'm aware of. Nope, good. In that case, it's your turn anyway, because here it is. It's time for table topics, so please make most welcome the one, the only. Don't swoon, she is only human, believe it or not. Here's Joni Laidlaw.
Thank you, our Toastmaster of the day, Graham. Table topics. It's the part of the meeting where we all get to speak impromptu, and to our guests, hopefully, I'm hoping, as we're already Toastmasters, that would be happy to be a part of table topics. But usually we start with a seasoned Toastmaster and a member of Online Presenters just to show how it is done. Remember, our timing is 1 minute, 1:30 for yellow, and red at 2 minutes. So we're all going to hold a little confab whenever we're called upon to do so. And I'm going to ask my Toastmaster of the day to hold me accountable, because though we have a little bit of extra time, I do not actually want to go overtime. With that, I'm going to start with Carrie. I know you just arrived, but I think this question is in keeping with the situation. Let's have a little confab. Holding yourself accountable, let's get some accountability, is a perfectly balanced life actually boring?
Can you please repeat the question, Johnny?
Is a perfectly balanced life actually boring?
Hey, everyone, and hi, Johnny. Yeah, haven't been back to Toastmaster for a little while, so that's why I feel a little bit strange in front of speaking of everyone. So I think like holding a balanced life in front of like everyone, is it a boring routine? Is it boring after all? Yes. In my point of view, I think it's boring. But it's really hard to give like a definite answer. It really depends on different person. For me, a balanced life, it's like a simple definition of a balance between work and life. Basically, you work and at the same time you put your energy, your effort into it. And at the same time, the other part, it's about your life. You have the life, maybe you have a dog, maybe you have children, you go out for traveling and tourist, and then you time yourself perfectly. It's a little bit boring from my perspective. For me, I did something a little bit different. When I was in Hong Kong 5 years ago, I decided to go on a different route. I worked every day and get what work. I did yoga. I felt that it was too balanced of my life that I need to take some adventures. That's why I decided to take the exam. I decided to study overseas in the United States and decided to take more adventure to go to another country. So I didn't have that balanced life anymore. I broke that balance. And at the end, eventually I come to this country. I know new people and then I broke my boundaries. And then I don't have my balanced life anymore because sometimes I overwork myself. Sometimes I go to different country. When I visit different countries, and often I will have a lot of time jet lag. I don't have a balanced life anymore. So yeah, I do think having a balanced life is a little bit boring, but it really depends on the person. For me, I like adventures. Back to you, Johnny.
Thank you, Carrie. And I figure you were going to agree with that about it being boring because I've seen that you like being adventurous. Gabby, let's have a little confab on this topic. Can a system have too many checks and balances leading to gridlock? You need to unmute. You're muted.
Apologies. Can too many checks and balances lead to gridlock? Is that the question?
Can a system have too many checks and balances leading to gridlock?
Well, I keep my checks and balances quite simple. Life is very hectic and it has always been. And maybe I need that. But to balance out, I ask for help when I need help and I get everyone involved. And my daughter is a really big help in my life. We have 4 generations, and I'm very involved with over 50 people within the immediate family. And so I love taking my daughter to the airport when things are super hectic and out of balance. And we have the confab to make sure that she is accountable. And that's all I have.
It was a good try. And it, oh, like I said, people are always the greatest tool to be held as accountability partners. And it's nice that you are assisting your daughter in working through systems that create gridlock. I've heard how horrible airports can actually be. My next question is for Ivy. Ivy, let's have a little confab. If you had a personal assistant whose only job was to veto your bad ideas, what's the first thing they would tell you no to?
That's a tough one. I try to keep my life in balance and I try to be accountable for all the promises that I make to myself. Because when I start any day, I have a big to-do list. Usually by the end of the day, I'm way down like half of it. And half of it is just too much. I have like 20 items on my to-do list. I'm sure that I'm not gonna get to all of them. So I think if I had an assistant, the first thing that she would tell me to do would be to prioritize what I can do versus what my mind thinks that I can do, because our brain is a little bit different from reality. It can underestimate and overestimate your power and your time. So trying to keep a good balance of what you can do and be accountable for that. That also makes you feel better about yourself, because at the end of the day, if you had 3 items on your to-do list and you did all of them, it's like you reacted to yourself and you kept your promise to yourself and you are an accountable person. Yeah, so that is important.
Thank you for that, Ivy. I'll give you a tip on how I keep myself accountable. If you only
Thanks.
put 3 items on the list, the ones you know you're going to finish, then you'll hold yourself accountable because then you know what you're going to do when it's finished. Thank you so much for your answer. And yes, sometimes it's a lot. Who do I want to confab with next? Jenny. Jenny, what is the hardest balancing act you've had to perform in your personal life?
Okay, thank you so much for your question. And my ultimate hardest thing to do in my life is, of course, create that balance between my health, and that takes around 3 things: exercise, eating healthy, meditation. And the other part is also the balance going to work and perform well. And the third part is combined with the time with my family and spend time with them. And I think I can see, or I can refer to the wellness wheel, which it's everything about your emotions, the environment that you are in, and the part of the economy. But at these 3 points, actually, I'm doing it step by step, little by little, and progressing every day 1%. Back to you.
Thank you, Jenny. And I agree. It's a little by little that the little things that we do that accumulate into our progress over time. My next question is going to be for Sunny. In a relationship, friendship, or business partnership, what is the check to ensure one person doesn't hold all the power?
Power, more power to you. How does one not hold all the power when it comes to a relationship? I would definitely say that communication is the key. That's what my parents say when they're asked how have they been married for over 60 something years. And whether it's in a personal relationship or a business relationship, if you can communicate what the dynamics are, it can make for more smooth sailing. So when you have a confab, also in communicating, it's listening. And I think if you can be a good listener, you can get an opportunity to hear what the other person is saying. And that's my example. And now that I have the green thumb, I would like to say that my husband often says, I'm the one who thinks she has the power. But I've learned over the years, women don't always have to have the power, but we can also have the influence. And I think influence, John Maxwell says that that's what leadership is, influence. It's influence. And so if we can all make sure that when we influence others, it's for the good and not for evil. And I think that would make sure that one person has all the power. And with that, more power. Back to you.
Thank you for that, Sunny. In Jamaica, we have a phrase that says, man of the head, but woman of the neck. And don't worry, I'll translate. See, Jenny, that's why I said just say it in Spanish and then translate. The man might be the head, but the woman is the neck. So you have the brain, but we turn you in the direction that you are supposed to go. And there's nothing worse than neck pain when you get stuck with tunnel vision. Appreciate your neck. With that, I will call an end to our table topic session. Thank you, everyone, for the great confab. And I know David is going to drop in the chat the link to vote for best speaker. I return to our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster, or Table Topics Master at least, Joni. Thank you for those intriguing questions. You certainly got a confab going. You held us accountable for thinking about where we're going, and that was what the role of the Table Topics Master is. And I managed to get in both words, just so long as the grammarian is aware of that. Not that I am blowing my own trumpet, as it were. No, seriously, thank you very much. And I note that there is a link in the chat, which you can now click on and vote for the best table topic. There's no need to vote on the best evaluator and the best speaker because we only have one speaker and we only have one evaluator tonight, but that's all right. Now let's hand control of the meeting to the general evaluator for this evening. Please make welcome the one, the only, it's him, Andrei Smolenko. Yeah, Andrei, all yours.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster of today. And I'm Andrei Smolenko, General Evaluator for this evening. We heard prepared speech from the wonderful speaker today. And we had table topics. And the third part, I personally think the most interesting and important part is evaluations. When I joined Toastmasters a while ago, about 5-6 years, I joined to improve my public speaking skills. However, I stay for evaluations because in my view, we can only get better by listening and by producing actionable evaluations to the speeches and many things in our life. Bearing that in mind, I'm just going to brief you on what's going to happen in the third part. We'll have one evaluator evaluating a critique of speech. Then I will pass the stage to auxiliary roles that we have a number of people taking part. And the third, I will just give a short summary of the meeting from my general evaluator point of view. And we'll pass it back to our Toastmaster of the day. This is what's going to happen in the next maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So please bear with me. And now I would like to pass the stage to Annie Martin, who is evaluating Kritika's speech. Annie, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, and thank you, Kritika, for your speech. A true story of mentoring, lessons, and moral values. We could all see how prepared Kritika was. I could see immediately that we came onto the room because she was standing up. So she had this sense of like, I'm completely prepared. I'm not even going to do this sitting down. And when you're standing up for a speech, there's more of a sense of adrenaline and mimicking more of being on a physical stage. So it's a great tool to use when you are giving a prepared speech. And you did that so well and thoughtfully that you had prepared that. You also had a long speech that was well committed to memory. I could see an occasional glancing of notes, but not much. So we had again this sense that Kritika was very well prepared for what we were about to hear. And she had a novel twist by combining a level 2 mentoring speech with something at a higher level. And she did that by way of a case study. So it wasn't just theory about mentoring, mentor, mentee. It was a case study of Bob and Julie. So that gave us more of a hook to think, well, this is going to be two different characters here. What actually is going to happen? How are they different? How do they evolve? And so on. I do have a point of improvement, Kritika, and I have to be honest and say that there were enough words I wasn't catching so that some of the threads I was losing. I have to be honest to say that, because otherwise I would have adored to get a little bit further into the structure and really sort of talk about that. But I won't, because that may be entirely unfair, because there were a couple of key points I was missing there, and I don't want to inaccurately say things that I didn't quite catch. In terms of your trying to catch more words, I do notice how much you, especially at the beginning, were so aware of your pace, and it was great. And that slower pace happened. And in particular, I love that there was a big pause almost at the end of every sentence. And I thought that was great. It gave us a chance to catch up with what you'd said. But as the speech evolved, it was speeding up, and that's where we got the problem. So pace is one thing that can help, but the other thing that this speech would have lent itself to really well was the characterization. I think if we'd seen you moving, being Bob here a bit lower, and being Julie here a bit whatever, that would have helped get around some of those issues of us trying to catch every word. So less words, but said differently, and maybe in different positions of the screen would have assisted that. But I did love the words that you used. I enjoyed very much your expressions about an uplifted cantilever and a linchpin and the metaphor of collecting honey from the beehive. So there's some beautiful language that I was catching in there that I so very much enjoyed. So in summary, great that you were creative to combine two levels. You had woven around a story. Do consider the speed in which you're presenting and that different characterization. And we'll continue to hear more speeches from you about a variety of topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annie, for your wonderful evaluation. I think I can do it using my general evaluator's power, since Annie is the only evaluator, regardless of her time. Well, she probably won. Congratulations, Annie, for the best evaluator for this evening. Hey! At the same time, Andrew, our timer of the day, it would be great to know what Annie's time was. So in case she wants to improve with her timekeeping skills, she can do it for the next time.
If you check the chat at 2037, you'll see that Annie's timing was 3:22.
3:22. Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. The next part of the general evaluator's role is fabulous. I'm going to introduce one by one the auxiliary roles, all those people without whom this meeting would be virtually impossible. Some of the roles, they're especially privileged for online presenters, from what I hear. However, we start with widely used role in Toastmasters, role of grammarian. And our grammarian for this evening was Sherry Blake. Sherry, please share your views on how the meeting been going.
Thank you so much, Andre. Okay, I have to admit, I probably did not catch everyone using the word of the day. I'm going to start there first. So please forgive me. Hold me accountable. So I caught two people using the word accountability, and because it's such a widely used, easy word to incorporate into your speeches, I'm sure more than just two people used it, but I did catch Graham and Ivy using it. So forgive me for everyone else that used it and I didn't catch it. Now for confab, Joni used it twice. Dr. Sunny used it once, and Graham used it once. So if I didn't catch you, and Andrew used it once or more. So if I didn't catch you, I do apologize. Now, I did catch a few things that I want to bring to everyone's attention. So Gabby, you said are really big help, and what you could have said instead is a big help. Carrie, you had spoke on being away for a bit and finally coming back, and you said in front of speaking, when I think you meant to say speaking in front of. What I did like that you said was, I broke that balance. So that was something that stood out to me. Ivy, this is just an observation. You used a word that I just wasn't clear on. I couldn't make that word out. And wasn't able to jot down that sentence to maybe trigger maybe what word you were trying to say. So just be aware of maybe speaking a little slowly. You did say that word twice, but I couldn't make it out. And Annie, what I like that you said was balancing of notes and some of the threads. Those two phrases caught my attention. That's all I have. Back to you, general evaluator.
Thank you very much, Sherry, for your observations. I'm sure most of them have been noted by our speakers, and they will improve on them for the next meeting. The next important person I would like to ask for their report is our accountant, Jenny Isla. I believe Jenny is our guest. And Jenny, I can't wait to hear your report. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. As a counter, I track all filler sounds like a, or smack lips, and filler words like so, you know, that, and repeated words to help. So I would like to just to help you about how you speak or deliver your table topics or the speech. And it's pretty I'm doing all of that, but but we cannot do it. And I just really amazed that most of the members are not doing a lot of this. And I just would like to highlight the speaker when she, as the evaluator, and Annie said, so she kind of paused and repeated the last word in order to proceed for the following paragraph. So I like that, but she didn't make any mistake with these arms off. So I think she handled pretty well, and I wanted to highlight this. And the most arms, of course, it's me. But overall, I'm very amazed. Was very clean for all the members doing all this part of the meeting, the counter, as a counter. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much for your report, Jenny. Something tells me that you have done it before. Is this right? It's not your first time doing a counter's role?
Oh, it's just, yeah, I did before, of course. Just forgive my informality. Sometimes I'm just a little nervous.
Oh, not at all. One of the rules, by the way, I was told when I joined Toastmasters, never, ever apologize to the audience when you doing your part or presenting the report. Something that really stuck with me, and it's something that I'm sharing. Thank you for your input. And the next very important person I would like to ask to this virtual stage is our watcher, Jim Barber. The stage is yours, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. As the watcher this evening, of course, I had, as usual, a very easy job because everybody here, all our members are professionals. They are well lit, they're well framed, they effectively use the visual frame. Everybody just knows what they are doing. So I'm going to take the rest of my time to offer an opinion. This is not necessarily going to be approved by everybody, but this is just something I was thinking about. There has been a movement for everybody to standardize their background so that everybody's background looks like this. That is nice in one way because it looks very professional. It looks very nice that everybody's doing the same thing. Yet at the same time, it's kind of boring. If I were to look at the screen right now, this instant, I would not notice any of the members. I would notice our guests because they have a different background. I would notice Andy because he has a different background. He is the timer. What I really liked was, and she's changed it on me, but the background that Dr. Sunny was using earlier, which is follows sort of the standard background, but it's a different form. There you go. Thank you. I like that. It's different. It's personal for Sunny, and yet it also blends in with the club, the standard thing. So again, this is not a standard recommendation for the club, but just something I would like you to consider is that possibly we can overdo the standardization and possibly we should move toward a little more personalization at the same time. Just my thought. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much for your observations, Jim, and quite valuable in my view. Standardized backgrounds, yeah, I think I should get into standards as well. Thank you for that. The next person I'm going to call on this virtual stage is Dr. Sunny with her chat monitor report. Some people told me that chat monitor is privileged for not many online clubs, but in our club is a very, very important role. Dr. Sunny, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. GE. And yes, it is very important. Very quickly, for those of you who may not know, if you go to your chat, up at the top, you'll see 3 dots. And if you click on it, you can save the chat, because usually in this club, there's always some good information. For instance, from Andrew Byrne, he will put in lots of different documents, and they're keepers, just letting you know. Now, some of the funny things, I'll start with our watcher, Jim Barber, who said that he's a quick confab. I forgot to say that I'll be accountable for ensuring everyone's visual presence. So there. And he was alluding to the fact there were not 1, but 2 words of the day today. So that was funny. Then again, as I said, please look in the chat. A helpful thing is the background that does get popped up in case you're having trouble with your background. So thank you for that, Karthika. And I also noted that in response to one of the documents from Dr. Andy, that Toastmaster Graham talked about, what did he talk about? He talked about eating a frog. That led to a very intense confab by me saying I heard frog's legs were good. And then I think it was, Carrie Kong, who, Graham said, you have to have some way to serve them so that they don't overpower the taste of amphibians. And there's Carrie, she talked about how to stir fry them. So who knew what you can get when you come to our meeting and you look at all the confabbing that is going on in our meeting. So again, save the chat. There are some good things that are going on. And with that, back to you, Mr. GE.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sunny. I think what you just said have proven that a chat monitor is extremely important, especially it's our club. And last but not the least, I would like to ask our timer, Dr. Andrew Byrne, for your brief report. Is there anything you've noticed that was out of ordinary, or perhaps the meeting ran nicely and smoothly from the timer's points of view?
Thank you very much for the question, Andre. From a timer's point of view, things went well and according to the agenda. The timing should always match up with the agenda. We did not get stressed out by having multiple speakers. We had 1 speaker in a defined period of time. We had everybody speaking appropriately during the table topics and evaluation. So everybody held accountable to the agenda, which normally should be focusing on how we utilize our time. And the agenda allows all of us to see what the time stipulations are so that they can be held accountable to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew Byrne. And as a general evaluator, I would like to summarize just my view of the meeting. The meeting started in time, and then it was warmed up by our warm Dr. Sani. She engaged us in a really interesting conversation about the checks and balances. She also attracted attention of our guests, that we had a few today. I would like to praise our Toastmaster of the day together with our table topics master, that for giving roles and encouraging our guests to participate in the meeting, which I think is really important, considering that some of our guests are experienced Toastmasters. They will get a chance to see how the meeting runs and take part in the meeting itself. I would like to praise Table Topics Master Johnny for coming up with thought-provoking, really interesting questions. That's made me thinking as well. And at some point thinking, please don't ask me. Please don't ask me that question. Luckily, I wasn't called on this stage. As a general evaluator, I have some privileges. Agenda was clearly set up and most of the roles were taken well in advance. However, we had only one prepared speech today. There was a place for maybe one or at least two. Normally, it's our meetings, we have three prepared speakers and we have three evaluators taking part in the meetings. This is why I would like to encourage our members to sign up for the speeches and use this opportunity not only to share what you have to say, but receive a valuable evaluation so your speech can be improved even better for the next time. I felt in really safe hands from Toastmaster of the Day, Graham Carnes. At the same time, I would like to see a few more facts, interesting facts, as you, Graham, started with about the check. In the 17th century in England, it's about £400. Perhaps maybe a couple of more interesting tips that would go through the meeting, would make it even more interesting. And overall, I'm just pleased to be general evaluator in Online Presenters. And I hope our guests will like it too and come back next Monday at the same time. With that, I would like to pass the stage back to our Toastmaster of the Day, Graham Carnes.
Thank you, General Evaluator Andre. And thank you, everybody, for your contributions. I'll be handing over to the President shortly for guest comments. But before we do, a few things about checks. And I know that we said we weren't going to be talking about checks as checks, rather than checks as balances. But I mentioned earlier that the usage of checks was declining around the world. The United States, as mentioned, is the primary user of checks. Australia, check usage has plunged by 80% in the last decade. New Zealand, all major banks, in fact, ceased processing checks in July 2021. That's 5 years ago. In Europe, most European countries have almost entirely eradicated check usage. Finland, for example, stopped using them in 1993. Netherlands in 2001. Denmark only in 2017. Crikey, that's less than 9 years ago. But in the UK, while checks are still in circulation, check usage is rare. Most major retailers stopped accepting them around 2005. I remember paying for my groceries by check, until my bank pointed out to me that 75% of all people whose accounts went into deficit were writing checks for their groceries. Because grocery stores will cash checks because they want to sell you the groceries. They don't care that it's going to take them a week before they finally get the money after the bank squeezes it out of you. But that was back in the day when we were a single income family and all that sort of stuff. Checks have largely died, but it is interesting to note that in the United States, checks are still quite widely used, and that's largely because there is such a large percentage of people who are unbanked. That is, they do not have a bank account and therefore cannot deal other than in cash except by check. And that's why you get those horrendous payday lenders who charge usurious rates and cash your check but for a fee. There's nothing I can say except your country, you deal with it. On that note, checks and balances are something that we all need to deal with. One of those checks and balances is to make sure that we don't run out of time by talking too much. And so I'm going to hand control of the meeting now to our president for guest comments and observations from El Pres. Here's Johnny.
Thank you, Graham, for taking us through an interesting topic and an interesting meeting today. We are at the time when it is renewals. So just a reminder to everyone that it is time to sign up, to pay for membership, to become a member, or to renew. For next month, which is the month of March, we're doing a Each One, Reach One campaign. Now, I know that Toastmasters has Talk Up Toastmasters, but we decided to do our spin on it, the online presenters, Each One, Reach One. So we're hoping that everybody can invite one guest. But Joni, you said in March. Why are you telling me now? Well, I'll be happy to answer. See, I did tell you, they call me they, them, because I'll ask you the question and I'll answer it. Very simply put, next week we're having an educational feature and it's going to be an amazing one. It's a good opportunity to showcase online presenters, so a good opportunity to invite people in to see how much they can learn by being a part of online presenters. And our very own Annie Martin will be the one taking us through that educational feature. Our Vice President of Membership is not here, so I will be taking us through the guest comments, but as usual, I will be adjourning the meeting so I can end the recording so that we can have a special guest comment recording.